$500,000. That was the price tag on the dress Jade Harrison wore to the city's most exclusive gala. And the moment she stepped into the grand ballroom, every eye turned toward her. Some looked with curiosity, some with envy, and some with barely concealed hostility. Before we dive into Jade's story, I want to ask you, where are you watching from? Which city? Make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like to support more stories like this. Jade could feel the tension in the room as clusters of guests whispered, casting glances her way. Their words were quiet, their judgment subtle, but the message was clear. She was not expected here. The gala was the highlight of the social season, an evening where wealth, influence, and status dictated every gesture, every conversation, every glance. Jade was aware of her accomplishments, of her recent promotion, of her position in the corporate world, but the history of exclusion pressed against her like a silent weight. Maxwell Corbin, the CEO hosting the gala, watched from across the room. 57, with slick-back gray hair, a sharp jawline, and piercing blue eyes. He had built a reputation for control and precision. Tonight, that control would be tested. As he approached, his voice smooth but edged with condescension, he said, "Jade Harrison." Quite the statement. Jade met his gaze calmly. "Thank you. Thank you. I hope you're enjoying the evening," she replied evenly. Maxwell's smirk flickered, his usual composure strained. "I hope you understand what you're wearing, right?" he asked, testing her. "I know exactly what I'm wearing," she said, her tone composed, firm, unyielding. Around them, whispers grew. Guests sensed the clash, leaning in to observe the tension, drawn to the subtle war unfolding in real time. Jade realized this was more than a question of fashion or wealth. It was about presence, about asserting herself in a room long accustomed to diminishing women like her, about showing that her achievements and her existence were not negotiable. She moved through the room with confidence, aware of every glance, every whisper, every camera lens aiming to capture the moment. Her ruby gown shimmered under the chandelier light, every detail deliberate, every gesture a statement of strength. As the auction began, a rare, exquisite necklace was presented. Jade felt the room tighten, anticipation spreading like electricity through the crowd. She raised her paddle steadily. $500,000, she said, her voice clear, resonant, unwavering. Gasps echoed, a wave of disbelief sweeping across the room. Maxwell's smirk faltered, and murmurs of shock and judgment grew louder. The guests, accustomed to controlling the social narrative, were confronted with someone who refused to yield, someone whose presence alone disrupted their assumptions. Security hovered, uncertain, as Jade maintained her composure. Maxwell stepped closer, attempting authority. "This is not a place for reckless gestures. You cannot simply flaunt wealth like that," he said sharply. Jade's response was quiet but firm. "I can, and I did." The tension in the room intensified, whispers multiplying as cameras clicked and phones captured every detail. Jade had become more than a participant. She had become the story itself. Every step, every glance, every subtle movement radiated confidence and defiance. The auction continued, but it was no longer just about the necklace. It was about visibility, respect, and asserting one's right to exist unapologetically. Guests shifted in their seats, some uncomfortable, some impressed, others resentful, but all had to acknowledge her presence. The music, laughter, and champagne flowed around them, but Jade's poise transformed the atmosphere. Maxwell's attempts at control were quietly undermined by the growing sense that he was no longer the center of attention. The gala had shifted, and the narrative had changed. Jade Harrison was not just present. She commanded acknowledgement, and her story was beginning to unfold. By the time the first round of bids ended, it was clear that this night would be remembered. Jade's act of assertion, her calm yet resolute defiance, had already begun to challenge the established hierarchy. Social media quietly began capturing moments, recording, and streaming. Jade understood that this was more than a single night. It was a turning point. And while the gala continued with its music, chatter, and sparkling wine, every guest in the room knew something had changed. Jade Harrison had arrived, and she would not be diminished. The eyes that once judged now watched closely, curious, cautious, aware that this woman was rewriting the unspoken rules of their world with elegance, confidence, and determination. The first part of her story was complete, but the night's climax and the consequences of her courage were yet to come. The room held its breath as Jade's $500,000 bid was registered. A wave of tension swept through the gala, and Maxwell Corbin's control, so carefully maintained for decades, began to crack. Security hovered nearby, uncertain, as Jade stood calm, poised, and unapologetic. She did not shout. She did not argue. Her presence alone commanded the room, asserting her right to be there, her right to act with dignity and authority. Cameras and smartphones captured every movement, broadcasting the confrontation to anyone watching. Maxwell attempted to intervene, signaling to cancel her winning bid, but Jade remained unshaken. "I'm not stepping aside. I'm here, and I will proceed," she said, voice steady and deliberate. The room shifted. Guests who assumed dominance now faced a woman unwilling to be minimized. Socialites, assistants, photographers, everyone sensed her courage, and whispers grew into murmurs of astonishment. The auctioneer tried to maintain order, but the focus had shifted completely. What was meant to be a simple bidding event had become a stage for power, presence, and assertion. When the bid concluded, Jade had won. Gasps and murmurs filled the room, a mixture of disbelief, awe, and grudging respect. Maxwell's authority faltered further, and the story quickly reached social media. Clips of Jade's calm defiance went viral, commentary painting her as the symbol of courage and him as the controlling antagonist. The following morning, messages flooded her phone, praise, criticism, debate, but all acknowledged her impact. Jade had not only claimed a seat at the gala, she had transformed the moment into a statement, challenging elitism, bias, and centuries of exclusion. In her corporate world, colleagues and leadership recognized her composure and strength. Invitations, speaking engagements, and professional opportunities followed not for fame, but for her clarity, courage, and the influence she had demonstrated. Maxwell's reputation suffered as public perception shifted. Jade had proven that one could assert presence, maintain dignity, and challenge power without aggression. Subsequent events treated her with admiration. Her story inspired others to assert their worth, to claim space unapologetically, and to confront subtle and overt bias with confidence. Yet Jade remained grounded, aware that the true impact of her actions went beyond viral fame. A ruby gown, once criticized, had become a symbol of triumph, courage, and the refusal to be diminished. Every shimmer, every fold, reflected resilience and assertion. Months later, discussions of that night persisted, shaping conversations about respect, equity, and recognition. Jade Harrison had become more than a name. She was a symbol of courage, poise, and resistance. Maxwell, once untouchable, faced scrutiny and diminished influence. Jade's presence extended beyond the gala, affecting corporations, communities, and young professionals who saw in her example the power of dignity and assertiveness. Standing tall, composed, and unwavering, Jade had claimed her place in a world long designed to minimize her. The gala, the confrontation, and the viral moment became legendary, inspiring discussions in professional, social, and online spaces. Jade's story proved that wealth, status, or color could never dictate courage or integrity. She had shown that true influence manifests through presence, composure, and refusal to be diminished. Her ruby gown remained a tangible reminder of a night that had become a lifetime of impact, a symbol of confidence, resilience, and victory over prejudice. As we reflect on Jade Harrison's journey, remember that every moment of injustice, doubt, or exclusion is an opportunity to assert your worth, to stand firm, and to inspire others. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more real-life accounts of courage, resilience, and standing up against injustice, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us bring more stories like Jade's to the world.